No, don't worry about it. I've known UNICEF for a long time. I looked up to UNICEF since I was a kid. When I started Rumah Faye, I wrote letters to a lot of different organizations and to governments and to ministers, and actually wrote one to UNICEF Indonesia. It was a handwritten letter. It had like a little dolphin sticker on it, I think. I didn't get a reply, but I was still a big fan, and so I'm very, very excited to be here.
Oh, and do you remember what you were writing about in the letter to UNICEF Indonesia?
Yeah, I wrote, so it was before I started Rumah Faye, but I knew I wanted to do something, that had to do with anti-trafficking work. And I knew UNICEF worked, for every child. And
Hmm.
so I thought I just wanted to reach out. I wanted to ask, is there an opportunity for me? I was like 8 or 9 years old. I was like, is there an opportunity for me to come and say hi or, do something for your office? And maybe, I think people, they respond faster to emails as well. But I wrote that letter. Um, yeah.
Nice. So UNICEF somehow has been in your, at least on your mind since you were 8 years old. That's already 10 years ago.
Yeah, it has been 10 years.
So I was so, yesterday I watched your TEDx presentation and I was really impressed. You did that when you were 15 or 16 or so. How did you get to do the TEDx?
Um, I think I have to start from my family that have been so, so supportive of me. Um, Not just morally, very supportive morally, but also financially. I think I had this really incredible opportunity to help make a difference in my community, and they facilitated that. They encouraged that. They never forced me to do anything. And because of that, I felt like I could do something, right? Because everything I did at the end of the day was something that was the product of my hard work with their support. And so when Rumah Faye started, I never thought that I would have the opportunity to speak, at events. I thought it was just me um, working with the community, doing my thing on a grassroots level. That's where my heart lies. That's where my passion is. But we've also gotten some really, really incredible recognition. And I was so nervous for that TEDx speech. I was shaking. I don't know if you could tell, but I was shaking. But I'm glad. I think it went pretty well.
Yeah, I was very impressed because, at least for me, sometimes when I talk about something that is very close to my heart, I get emotional. So I thought you were doing it very well. So you had a beautiful balance between your profound belief, wanting to do something for children who are trafficked and children who have less fortune in their lives than you have. At the same time, you manage to keep it human without bursting in tears or without too many emotions. So it was really, how is that for you? If you look back, it's now 2, 3 years ago, and probably you've moved on and you're doing now things that are different or maybe the same things, but usually I can imagine that you do it, you learn every day and every year. So when you did that, how was the reaction of your community?
It was very celebratory. I think they were so wonderful. I have such a great community. I'm sure, I think as well, we get a lot of threats sometimes with the work that we do. We get a lot of criticism, but after that speech, I think a lot of people started to recognize Rumah Faye as an organization that had done a lot, and myself as a leader in my organization that deserved, essentially had been drafting proposals, writing all of these ideas and programs and implementing them and doing them that really did benefit other people. And so I was really happy that our impact had spread. And what made me most happy is we got a lot of kids my age at the time who reached out and said they wanted to help or they wanted to start something similar in their community. And that's what made me very excited, because I remember when I first started, I felt like nobody was helping me. The one who I really looked up to was Malala Yousafzai. I read her book right before Rumah Faye launched. So her book was published a week before Rumah Faye started in October, and I remember getting the book and reading through and feeling so inspired. And I felt so lonely, kind of, because there was nobody like that near me, or at least that I knew of at the time. And so when I did that speech and we had people reaching out to me, asking for advice, asking for help, I got so excited because it it meant a lot. I know what it's like to be there, and so that was really great.
Yeah, and tell me a bit about Rumah Faye. So you started the house, and it's a kind of a safe house, and I understand it's one of the few or the only one in Indonesia. How do others react to all of this work that you're doing, government and others?
Yeah, we started out very, very small. I didn't think that we could actually make a safe house in the very beginning. We were really just peer-to-peer education. I have this core belief that you cannot ever find a solution to an issue, a social issue, an environmental issue, if you don't involve the vulnerable population. And for
Mhm.
child trafficking, the vulnerable population were children. But whenever I volunteered at like little organizations, they didn't see children as partners, but as part of the problem, right? Because they were the victims. They just thought, okay, we have to protect them. But they weren't making children part of the child protection framework. And so my idea was just to go down to areas where there was high levels of child trafficking and just to start conversation, start dialogues, because it engaged the children. And we wanted to focus on long-term impact so that when we when a case happened, the kid would know where to report, right? Or if they went out for rehabilitation, they could come back and the society, their community wouldn't blame them.
Mhm.
But I was so amazed, I think, to see how Rumah Faye had grown and how many people supported our mission until we could start a safe house in Batam in 2016. And from there, Rumah Faye really took off. We had amazing support and we started to do more programs to involve more children in the process. And we started training police officers, teachers as well. But, you're right. There has been a lot of kind of out, well, criticism, if you will, from a lot of different people, especially the authorities sometimes. But again, Rumah Faye has incredible support and we just keep trying to do our very best um, no matter what.
And how do you link with the girls, the women who live in the safe house? Because some of them may be the same age as you have. So
Yeah,
what does it do for you to
I
you?
think it was really hard when I first started out, especially when we started doing the safe house because it was a lot of direct contact. I mean, I was lucky my parents really made sure that I wasn't super directly involved. I never came in as a counselor, psychologist, or anything. I was just there, to visit, to say hi to everyone, but I was not ever there as a counselor or anything because I don't have the credentials for that. I worked as a facilitator. But um they see me as a friend too, and seeing their development, seeing how they've grown, it's such a privilege. I'm almost gonna cry thinking about it, but we've seen so much from our kids, who come in and they're, sometimes it's physical, it's malnourished, they're malnourished, or, other sexually transmitted diseases or a physical disability, and other times it's mental, right? It's depression, it's anxiety, it's PTSD, and sometimes it's really hard, I think, for me to see that and think, we're the same age and
Mhm.
I get so concerned that I won't be able to help them in the same way. But I have an incredible team, and the girls, they're all so willing, to work, to move forward, to laugh, and they inspire me every single day. And I've seen them grow so much. I've seen them heal, and it's so incredible. I've seen so sorry. Earlier, I said physical disability, not as a disadvantage, but really the fact that they were abused because of their physical disability, and coming in they were so embarrassed about it, they were so closed about it. But I visited again a couple months later, she's all fun and she's so happy. And I'm so sad because I haven't been able to see them as much during this pandemic because I
Yeah.
don't live in the same city as the safe house, but I'm gonna go meet them this Saturday, so I'm
Oh,
very, very excited. But
yeah.
seeing their development is so beautiful.
Yeah, when you were talking, I was thinking there is always that balance between protection. So you want everyone to feel protected and safe. And then on the other side, empowerment and agency. And it's beautiful when that balance is there. So when people are safe, and particularly girls and the young women that you're working with, so they are protected and they are safe. And then how to create that opportunity for them to get agency and to feel
Yeah,
empowered, because
we
that is
do these.
something lifelong that they can take with them.
Yeah, we do these programs with the girls where they can learn to sew, they can learn to crochet, and they're these small things that I see really mean something to them because this is the first time they've produced something, and we combine it with our counseling sessions, and they get so excited because this is something pure, you know, that they've made, and every time they show me, it's so happy, you know, it's so actually I think I this is a sorry, this is a bowl that one of my kids just sent to me.
Ah,
It's yeah, and so she made it, and that's her initial. That's her initial Y, and
yeah.
so it's just so so good to see the way that they can grow and they can flourish at our safe house.
Yeah. And have you seen already girls that are leaving the house, or is it still the same group? Is there not a turnover?
Oh yeah, so our girls stay about 8 to 12 months at the safe house. It depends. Sometimes they stay for only a month. Other times they stay for more than a year just because they're under 18 and so legal guardian and it's quite a complicated process. I'm sure you're familiar, but most of them when they go out, we do a not most of all of them, we do a 6 month monitoring process. We work together with the leaders that stay there, whether that's a religious leader or a school leader, and to make sure that they're okay. um, I will say that a lot of the cases, there's going to be some sort of barrier where people blame them for what happened. They can't find a job, and it's really, really tough. But other times, we've seen some incredible results from our kids who go back to school, our kids who really sometimes families will accept them back, and it'll be a very hard transition. But we've had some incredible stories of families just coming to um, realizing that there is nothing to forgive from the kid. You know, this is their child, and we are so honored to be part of that process and to see that. So it really never fails to make me smile whenever I see them now, and I text them, you know, I say, how are you doing now? And they say, yeah, I got like the best score in my class for my
Ah,
math test last week. And I think, oh, I did bad in my math test last week, you know. You're doing better than me.
and Faye, what are you up to? What else are you up to for the
Yeah,
years to come?
I just started university, which is very scary. But I'm just hoping that I can do whatever is best for Rumah Faye, for my country. Really, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know that my heart really does lie in serving others, specifically children. And I think there's a long way to go in terms of making sure that all children's rights are fulfilled in Indonesia and around the world. And I think I have a I want to have a part to play in that. So that's what I'm looking for.
And what kind of faculty are you in? What
I
are
am
you studying?
studying, yeah, I haven't chosen one yet, but I'm in the School of Foreign Service of my university. So it's between international politics or culture and politics. I do want to go into something that has to do with public policy because I believe that for a lot of the things I want change to be changed, there has to be structural change. There has to be better implementation, and that has to be done on a structural level. And whether I go into a government institution or an NGO, I think I do just need to have the knowledge to know what I want to advocate for.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. And now a bit about the pandemic. You mentioned already that you hadn't seen the girls on that Saturday, 2 nights sleep, Thursday and Friday, and then you see them again. So if this pandemic is managed, it may not be over so easily, but if
Mhm.
it's managed in a way that we can go about again, what is there anything that you would like to never happen again, or something that you like to leave behind? So
I
never
think
again.
I think um, what was so scary when the pandemic first started, and I think this has to do more a little bit with my activism, but I think my work really does, it's a part of me, was how scary that traffickers had reacted so quickly. They had adapted so quickly and transitioned from physical trafficking to online sexual exploitation of children. And we saw those figures skyrocket. We saw figures of domestic abuse and sexual exploitation online in Indonesia just absolutely go haywire. And our government and even NGOs like from Rumah Faye as well, we weren't prepared for it at all. And I think something that I hope that we can learn through this pandemic is just to really be prepared for anything, to be able to adapt to anything, being able to not necessarily predict what's going to happen, but also just be prepared to be and do our best no matter what happens. But yeah, that's something that I hope never happens again, is being unprepared for something at this scale.
Yeah, it's hard to know because this pandemic, in a way, came out of the blue. I think
Yeah.
beginning of January, when we heard about the first cases, it seemed still a little bit remote. And then suddenly, beginning of February, it came at least to Thailand, it came closer. We had our first cases already in February. And then it kind of took over the whole world. So I think no one was prepared. For UNICEF,
Yeah.
we had to beef up drastically our program for supplies, personal protective equipment, and we call it risk communication, so that people cough their hand, when they sneeze, they do it in the right way. They wash their hands, they use a mask, they take the distance. So for all of us, it was, and we still somehow in the pandemic, because we are also doing this meeting, our conversation
Yeah.
virtually. I could have been in Jakarta or in Indonesia, or you could have been in Bangkok, but we are doing it. It works this way. But in fact, the week of the 23rd of March, that was when the whole world was going in lockdown, was the week I was going to go to Jakarta and to Papua. And I was so much looking forward to that. So this pandemic, yes, the scare of online sexual abuse it brought maybe more reflection, more attention, maybe at the end for climate. So
Yeah.
less flying, people are more aware of things, but it also brought mental health issues, and it brought a lot of insecurity at home, also domestic violence. So at UNICEF, we are also very busy with that. And if there is one thing that I like also to leave behind, that is domestic violence and abuse, because it makes invisible scars that a lot of
Mhm.
children, young people, girls, boys, they take with them until the end of times. Now, on a more positive note, if you look in the future and then a little bit more post pandemic, post acute pandemic, anything that you say, I would like to reimagine something. What is it that you would like to reimagine and in a better shape, in a different form?
I think something that the pandemic has taught me is that you can connect with anyone at all, no matter how far they are, no matter the time difference or anything. And so I do hope that post COVID, we will still be able to connect with people the way that we found to connect, during the pandemic. I know it's been a very hard time for a lot of people. And in the beginning, a lot of my friends, and I did as well, struggled with mental health and other issues. But over the past couple months, I think we've kind of transitioned and realized if this is kind of the new situation that we have to deal with, we're going to find ways to deal with it. And it's this transition of mindset that I hope that we can keep throughout our lives, that, okay, sometimes the situation isn't going to be ideal. In fact, it's going to be absolutely terrible, but, we can prosper through it. And so I do hope that that's going to be something we still keep close.
Yeah. Faye, anything you like to ask me or
Yeah, I have, actually, I have a lot of questions all the time, but I guess I just wanted to ask you, um, this is kind of two questions, and they're quite different. I think that now there's a lot more conversation about youth activism, which is absolutely wonderful. But I do think that sometimes we emphasize youth over activism a little bit. and that goes for both sides. We see organizations and we see government institutions as well who really tokenize youth in a way. And I wanted to ask you, what kind of steps do you think that organizations or that governments can take in order to stop bringing in youth and tokenizing them? But on the other side, so this is like kind of the second question. There are also, I think, young people who they don't want to understand the importance of intergenerational understanding, right? Because they're like, okay, youth power. So I guess on one hand, how can governments, how can older generations stop tokenizing youths? But on the other hand, how can we as youths try to take steps towards intergenerational understanding and collaboration?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't know if you follow, yeah, I'm sure you follow the news, and you've seen in Hong Kong and also in Thailand, all these large youth movements. So when it's a real movement, I think it's genuine. It's not tokenism. So what I've seen here in Thailand is really a movement of young people who want to see change in the country and who want to be a responsible citizen and a contributor to making Thailand a better place, or making Hong Kong, for that matter, a different place. So that is quite genuine, and I always I feel quite strong about it. I come from the Netherlands, and in our culture, where I was raised, we had youth councils. Every school has youth councils, so we are kind of raised that this is an sharing your views is an integral part of what it means to be a global citizen, and it's a right and it's okay. So where it becomes a bit, I would say, tense, if you have the token youth who can also say something in a meeting somewhere, because then it is like that one young person represents the tens of millions, and that is really not so fair to the young person, maybe. And it's also that person is representing maybe only him or herself. So I feel always a little bit uncomfortable when it's a token approach, and you feel it. Usually you feel it, because when it's a token approach, it's one person who talks to a big crowd, and all the others are adults, then it must be a bit of a burden for that person as well. But when it's movements, I believe that young people are very well capable and very well aware what change they like to see to come about. And participation is a very crucial. The world that we are creating, I just think also of Greta Thunberg, the climate change activist from Sweden. Yeah, you can look at her like, oh, who is she? Little girl, big mouth. But the attention that she has brought to climate is unheard of. We could have spent billions of dollars in all kind of campaigns, and still climate change would not be on top of mind of most adults. But now it is. So for me, young people, youth participation is the key of creating a world that is better fit for everyone, for children, but for everyone. And that tokenism, I always have my toes a bit cringing in my shoes. I feel, in a way, I feel always a bit sorry when that happens. And at UNICEF, we try to avoid it. I think maybe a long time ago, 10 or 15 years or 20 years ago, could still happen that a young person would give a book, symbolically, or sign something symbolically. But I hope that we have left that behind. And we should definitely do something together, Faye.
Yes. Yes, I would absolutely love to. I know I said it earlier, but it's so weird because I've followed UNICEF for so long. I remember when I was a kid, I told my mom I would be a UNICEF youth ambassador one day. I was obsessed with UNICEF. So I hope one day that we can work together. I'm so honored to, be here really and talk to you and know that UNICEF really does, I think, care about youth youth aspirations and want to help us be part of the future.
Yeah, and I think talking again about activism and also at the same time, at times tokenism, for me, again, I go back to that balance between protection and agency and
Hmm.
empowerment. And that balance is very important. And I think the more we find that balance right, including with the girls that are in Rumah Faye,
Yeah,
um, the more likely it is that they can make choices that impact their own lives by themselves and not
yeah,
accept adults to make choices that impact their lives. And I think that that's a fine line, but if we get it right, it's the biggest gift that we can give to young people, that they are enough empowered or empowered to make the choices that impact their lives. And then the world, I think, will be looking different because we will hear more. There will be more voice, there will be more choice.
yeah. I think, you know, having well-informed youth is the most important thing. I think right now, even with social media, there's two sides, right? On one hand, we get more access to information, but on the other hand, there's also a lot of misinformation, and it's so easy for us to get angry. I know for me, it's very easy to get angry when I see the news, but I think just trying to think critically, trying to always challenge what I believe, and knowing what I stand for, and knowing what other, and just talking to other people as well. I hope that we as youth can just do better, to participate better, and to really hold our hold the people in power accountable. You know, I think that's something, that's a responsibility that we have.
Yeah, sure. You were also talking about intergenerational dialogue,
Collaboration, yeah.
collaboration, and I think that is a way for establishing also a more of listening. So usually the one who is talking is the one who has the power, and the one who's supposed to listen is
Yeah.
less in a position of power. So at times, I don't know how it is in Indonesia, but there are places in the world where there is a takeover in parliament sometimes, or um, it could even be a TV program. Intergeneration. It doesn't sound very attractive, maybe. We would need to look for a more fancy title, but it is understanding each other's perspectives and viewpoints. And I think if that respect is there, then a lot more can happen that is positive for young people.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. I do hope we can just be more engaged and want to collaborate more with different generations, because that's, I think that's what we need now, collaboration between gender, between generation, between everything, you know. I think that's, I hope that that's what, something we can do much more of.
Yeah. Faye, you have my email address, I think. If not, I will make sure you get it. And I
Yay.
look for your contact number. And I hope this is not the last time that we see each other.
Yes.
I hope that either we can do something together on maybe social media, or we have another dialogue sometime in a few months or so. And I truly hope that you will have a great time at university, and that Rumah Faye one reaches a point that it's no longer needed. But I think it will
Yes.
be needed for some more years. And I
Thank
wish
you.
you well with Rumah Faye as well, and your mom too.
Yes. I will let her know. Thank you so much. I know I said this earlier, but it really means a lot that an organization like UNICEF wanted to just sit down and talk to me, especially yourself. I've, you know, of course, before this, I read all about you, and I've seen you speak, and it's just, I'm so, so honored. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And for you, really, we are in this together, and we continue. And
Yes.
I wish you all the best, and
Thank
a
you.
big, big hug for all the girls that you will see on Saturday. Please,
Yes.
please send my
Yes.
very best to them.
I will. I will. Let me know if you're in Jakarta.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I hope to be there this year, but let's see how it goes with COVID and the flights. Okay. Bye bye, yeah.